Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill. The Assemblywoman and I had a good debate in the Assembly State Government Committee on the issue. The problem with this bill is it's not really about equal pay. The problem with the bill is it completely changes the landscape of our employment law system in New Jersey. It's really a sop to the plaintiff's bar, Mr. Speaker. Equal pay for equal work is the right principle, it is a correct principle, and it is the law of the land here in New Jersey as well as across the country. But there's really no state in the nation that has a better equal pay for equal work law than New Jersey. And look, I'm in the Superior Courts of New Jersey every day, or the United States District Court of New Jersey, virtually every day, litigating employment discrimination claims from both sides sometimes. And I can tell you that this bill, if it were to become law, would be a wonderful boon to my law firm and my bottom line. I'm going to vote against it because it's bad for New Jersey and it doesn't accomplish the goals that the sponsors laid out, which, as I understand it, is the economic empowerment of women here in the state. I'm not sure anybody in the chamber has more of an interest in the economic empowerment of women than I do, given that my wife, whom I greatly admire, is a Harvard-trained lawyer who deserves to be paid every bit as much as her colleagues in any law firm that she steps foot in here in New Jersey. I'm an only child, but I have wonderful sisters-in-law who are incredibly talented. They have PhDs, MDs, JDs. I really won the lottery when I married my wife and married into a wonderful family, but I have tremendously powerful, strong, and intelligent sisters-in-law. And I have 4 daughters who I want to grow up, hopefully stay here in New Jersey if they can afford to pay the property taxes by the time they grow up, and earn a living here in New Jersey and get paid every bit as much as their male colleagues. I want them to look up to their mother, and I want them to look up to their aunts. And I want them to aspire to be everything they can be, and I want them to do it here, and I want them to get paid equally for equal work. But this bill, again, doesn't achieve the ends it set out. First of all, this disclosure requirement for contractors who do work with the state of New Jersey will be a treasure trove for the plaintiff's bar. You Oprah the papers that the contractors have to file with the state, and you get all their information on what the gender composition of their workforce is and how much they're getting paid. That is a marketing piece for enterprising plaintiff's lawyer. I'm not the best marketer in the world, but even I could figure that one out. But secondly, and more importantly, the bill destroys the concept of the statute of limitations in our state. You can go back as far as you like under this provision, under this proposal, and try to recoup back pay that you think you're entitled to. So if a woman was hired 25 years ago in a company and some ne'er-do-well boss who was a male decided to pay that woman less than her male colleague 25 years ago, and then for 25 years she continued to labor under that unfair wage practice, in 2016 she could go back and try to recoup all that money over 25 years. Problem is, the employer long ago fired that supervisor. The supervisor might even be dead by now, and the company's probably been sold 2 or 3 times since the woman was hired. How is the company going to defend against a lawsuit that demands that they produce employment records from 25 years ago when the law presently only requires you to keep your employment and payroll records for 3 years? State law only requires you to keep payroll records back 3 years so you comply with overtime regulations and minimum wage regulations. So that turns really on its head the idea of what we call in the law repose, which is no matter what wrongs are done, at some point the law values repose. The law values putting that aside because you can't continually go back and try to account for every wrong that's been done to everyone ever. But in combination with the next provision, this proposal is truly destructive, and that is it flips the burden of proof onto the employer. All a plaintiff has to do under this proposal is to show that a woman's getting paid differently from a man, and it creates the presumption of gender discrimination. And then it's on the employer to prove that there were legitimate reasons that this pay disparity exists. How difficult will it be? You imagine yourselves as employers. Try to justify a decision that was made 25 years ago or even a decade ago by people who are no longer in your employ, or you never employed because you just bought the company 3 years ago, and prove affirmatively to a jury that the difference in pay is for some legitimate reason. It flips the burden of proof, presuming liability, and it takes away from a plaintiff the obligation to show that there was actual discrimination. Those two provisions, the elimination of the statute of limitations and flipping the burden of proof onto employers, will hurt employers in this state, including female-owned businesses. In the United States, American Express did a recent report, and they estimate that about 591 new women-owned businesses are started in our country every day. 591. Those businesses will suffer under a law like this. In New Jersey, it's estimated that there are about 260,000 employees who work for women-owned businesses. Not likely to be a target of one of these suits, but they will be suffering under the same legal regime that anyone else will be suffering under. The costs imposed on those firms, women-owned and male-owned, will be significant. They'll either have to pay attorneys like me to defend them against lawsuits that are virtually impossible to win, or more likely they'll just settle these cases, which will be a boon to the plaintiff's bar, and a few plaintiffs who are contacted by the plaintiff's bar. But that'll just be the cost of doing business in New Jersey. It's really an extra tax when you think about it. People will just call it the state legislature tax, or I don't want to associate the Assemblywoman's name with it, but they might grow to call it that tax. And when those costs are imposed on New Jersey's businesses, it will destroy opportunities for everyone, women and men. It will lower wages, and it will destroy jobs, and will have the effect of disempowering women and men in the workplace, not empowering women as the sponsor intends. That's why I oppose it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.